begin by opening up the file called scene.hip in the project folder, and here's what you get. So we'll be using what we've learned about translucency to build translucent materials for this cylindrical light and for this square light here. So let me begin just by going inside this cylindrical light node, and here inside it, let me make this a little bit bigger. I'll hit tab and I'll create a shop network. So this way I can build shop networks just inside this node in which I grouped my cylindrical light model. So I will go inside my shop network, or let me rename it before. I'll just rename it cylindrical light material, and I will go inside, and then here we will do just as we did before. We will create a Mantra surface VFX surface shop node. So this is our VFX surface shop. I'll go inside, and just as we did when we built our translucent material, I'll take this global node, I'll output a single variable from it, I will switch to the surface normal. Then, to inverse the normal, I'll create a negate node, I'll connect my N to it, I'll create a normalize node, then I'll create a lighting model. I'll hit tab one last time, and I'll create my lighting model. I will connect my normalized normal to the NN input of my lighting model, and then I'll connect the color to the CF output. Here almost everything is ready, but let me just in my lighting model I will switch to Lambertian lighting model. Don't forget to turn off the ensure faces pointing forward, and then I will take the ambient color to black and the specular color to black. Then for this diffuse color, in fact I want to have control over it. So let me just go to my lighting model again, and I will middle mouse click on my diff entry or input here, and then I'll click on create parameter node. This will allow me to have control over my diffuse color from this node up here. So you can see my diffuse color appeared here. I will change that to 0.8 for now, and then I will just select my VOP surface, I will hit Shift C to transform it to a material, and then I will drag it and drop it onto my cylindrical light upper part. In fact, this is the upper part because if you go a little bit closer, you can see this ring here which I call cylindrical light base, and here is the cylindrical light top. So now for my cylindrical light top, if I go to material, I can see that my cylindrical light material I had just created, this material 1, is just connected here. Let me go inside here and call it cylindrical light material top. So my translucent material for my cylindrical light is now ready. Let me go and build one for my square light. I'll just go inside my cylindrical light. I'll just copy this whole node because it will be almost the same. I'll do Ctrl C, and I'll go to my square light and I will paste this node here. I'll just rename it. I will put square inside of cylindrical, and inside I will also call it square. Later I will be making modifications on those materials to make them distinct and get the look I want, but for now let me leave them this way and assign this material to this part of my square light. If now we try to take a render of our scene, let me hit render, and we can see that the outside of our surfaces is black while their inside is bright, and all the other surfaces are bright. Well, that's only normal because now the light is coming from outside my two surfaces, and it's only natural that their outside part will be black because the light is coming from the outside. And we inverted the normals, so now the inside faces will look bright. One important thing I want to show you here, let me create a render node to be able to show you that. I'll just create a mantra node, and inside this mantra node, I'll just go to Objects, and here, if I go a little bit down, you can see a checkbox called Headlight Creation. Now if I turn off this Headlight Creation and I render using this Mantra 1 node, you can see that my scene will look black. And it's only natural because if Houdini didn't find a light in your scene, it will create a light by default for you. So when you turn off this headlight creation, you will tell Houdini that you don't want that default light created. Let me turn it back on, and now if I render with Mantra 1, you can see that I got the light back in my scene. So let it be turned off, and let us next create some lights inside our cylindrical and square light to make them behave the way we want. You may have noticed that in this exceptional case, I was able to render with my Mantra node without giving it a camera, and that's why I've got this 256 by 256 render. Let me close this window. If you didn't follow up until now, you can just open the file called scene1, scene_1.hip, and follow with me. So let us begin by creating the lights inside this cylindrical light. So first of all, I'll create a point light. I'll just drop it here. I'll position it inside my cylindrical light. In fact, let me enter the values for the position of this light, the values I've got when I was building the scene, so it will be the closest possible to the render I've shown you. So let me just give it a translate X of 0.75. I'll give it 8.9 on the Y and -3 on the Z. Now my light is positioned correctly, so I'll just go to its light parameters. I'll leave everything by default except for the light intensity. I'll just make it 0.8. Then the attenuation, I'll just turn it off. I do not want attenuation for this light. And I will turn on its ray traced shadows. After many tests I've done, I found that if I create two lights inside my cylindrical light, the light will be distributed more evenly and it will look nicer. So let me just duplicate this point light I've just created. I'll just copy and paste it, and I'll take the copy a little bit down. Let me enter its Y value, which I also got when I was building the scene. It's just 4.6. And now I have my 2-point light positioned inside my cylindrical light. Let me just change the intensity of this second point light. I'll go to its parameters also, and I will change its intensity 0.6. Apart from that, I will leave everything by default. I will leave this as no attenuation, and I will leave the ray traced shadows turned on. Now the lights inside my cylindrical light are ready. Let me move on and build a light inside my square light. So to do that, I'll just begin by creating an area light. I'll just position it inside my square light. I'll put it here, and as I did for the cylindrical light, I'll just enter the translation values manually, so I will be the closest possible to the final result I have. Let me enter a translate value of 6.7 for the X, 7.6 for the Y, and -3.7 for the Z. Let me go to its parameters. In fact, Houdini by default, when it creates an area light, it creates it. I will just show you. I will go to my perspective view and I will go closer to it. It creates it like a square. Light. I do not want that. I want a spherical light. So what I do, I go to the parameters of my area light, and if I go down, here you can see a tab called Area Light Options, and inside it, I will change the area shape from grid to sphere. Apart from that, I will take its intensity up to 10, and with this high intensity, I will give my light some attenuation. So let me give it a physically correct attenuation, and in the area light options, I will take down the area samples a little bit, so I will be able to render faster, and I will make my light a little bit bigger, so I will make its area size 3.3. Now, one thing is left to do. I'll just turn on the ray traced shadows as I did for the other lights, and apart from that, I will leave everything by default. So now I've built the lights I need inside my scene. You can see them here. I have my first point light and second point light inside my cylindrical light, and my spherical area light inside my square light. One thing I didn't notice before is that I created those lights inside my cylindrical light group here. So let me just cut them and paste them outside. So now I've got my lights here. I'll just call them cylindrical light 1, cylindrical light 2, and square light. Let me hit C on my keyboard to change their color to yellow so I can see them easily. And that's it for the lights. Let me hit render and show you the result now. I'll just hit render. So you can see now that the light's going through my cylindrical light and my square light, so they are acting now like translucent materials, and that's what we were after. So we built the translucent materials for our two lights, and we built the lights inside them. Now we have the light emitting part of our scene ready, so let me show you the different ways of how you can obtain indirect lighting with Houdini. Then we will apply one of those techniques to our scene to light it up. So let me just close this window. I will save this file as scene 2, so we can begin from here if you didn't follow up until this point, and I'll do a file new.